Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill, and welcome back to my studio. So today I'm going to talk about stencils, and I'm going to give you my top 10 stencils. That was really difficult for me to narrow that down to just 10 stencils. I refuse to go count how many stencils I own, but to narrow it down to 10 was quite a feat. Now here is what I considered in narrowing it down. The stencils that I'm going to give you are ones that I think should be the building blocks of your stencil stash. These are stencils that are open-ended, non-theme related, that you can use pretty much on any page or canvas or art that you do. And they're going to look great. The other thing that I was looking at is, how can I use these stencils? We can stencil with paint and ink. How do they work with modeling paste? I specifically love working with modeling paste and adding that textural element. Do the stencils give me what I want? How do they work on the gel plate? I like making gel prints, doing gel prints, and making collage papers with my gel prints. So I want a stencil that I can use with modeling paste, with paint, on the gel plate. I also look at the stencils, and in some of them, they're surprising because they have more than one motif in them. And so I'm looking for that, because very rarely in the way I create art do I stencil the whole thing. I take a snippet here and a snippet there. So while some stencils are full sheet, like this one, other stencils have, like this one, have multiple motifs or patterns in them. Both are valuable. Now, if the stencil didn't make the top 10 list, that doesn't mean I don't value it, and it is definitely staying in my stash. It's just, what I want to recommend to you are ones that, if you're starting out, if you're looking for a good all-purpose stencil, those foundational stencils that you will use and use and use, these are the ones. So I'm going to turn the camera down and unveil my top 10 stencils. Now, all the stencils that I'm going to show you are by the Crafters Workshop. And the reason for this is not that I am presently a brand ambassador for the Crafters Workshop. The Crafters Workshop stencils were the first stencils I started buying. I had purchased a lot of them long before I became a brand ambassador, and I've purchased them while I've been a brand ambassador, and I don't doubt that I will continue to buy their stencils. Now, this is one of my oldest stencils. It's called Quadrifoil by the Crafters Workshop, and I will put links to these so you can see the names and you can go and see it in the description box below. So click there. There's a place where you go through my Amazon store and you will be able to see this. Now, Quadrifoil Reverse, I love it. I love it for all the reasons that I mentioned. For stenciling patterns on, putting modeling paste through, it works exceptionally well, and using on the gel plate. I've used it and used it and used it. And you're going to notice that every one of these that have a lot of paint on them. I do clean my stencils periodically, but because they are my favorite stencils, they inevitably have paint in them. So there's number one. Number two is Crazy Waves. This stencil, number 743, I absolutely love. I love the waves here. I have used this as a whole. I've used different motifs. We've got 4 different patterns on here. It is absolutely wonderful. I've put modeling paste through bits and pieces as well as the whole thing. It's just one of those that I keep reaching for. Number two. Number three. Number 439, Retro Bursts. And I have this one in large and small. This is one of the ones, again, that I purchased on my own. And I love just stenciling in, you know, using one motif or multiple. You get different effects with it. A couple that I've recently purchased and added to my stash, Tile Mania. I love this one. It has these little lines, but they look like stars when you put modeling paste through it or stencil on it. It adds a really interesting element. I usually go for swirls and circles in my patterns. This one's more linear, but it does have some roundness in it. Absolutely loving it. Quickly, good all-purpose. Another new one that I've recently added to my stash, Chicken Wire Reversed. I've used this time and time again. Love it. Absolutely love when I put modeling paste through it and stenciling. It, you know, it's got that name, chicken wire, but it looks like so much more. It gives a really interesting effect. So those are 5 of the larger, the 12 by 12 stencils. Now most of their stencils you can get 12 by 12 and 6 by 6. And depending on what you're working on, you may want bigger ones or the smaller ones. I find if I'm working on canvases, I often want the larger stencils. If I'm doing collage papers, I like the smaller ones. If I'm doing gel prints, I like the larger ones because I can put the whole thing on and it covers the whole surface. It's how it works for me. So you decide. Sometimes I like the scale of the large stencil, or sometimes I like the scale of the small one. Now a bonus stencil here, because you know I couldn't limit it to just 10, is Rosetta. This is a mandala stencil. One of my first stencils that I purchased. I cut it out, this part, because I was using this part so much, and then I started using the motifs that you see here, or these circles, or this on other parts. And it will find itself on many, many of my projects. So you need one good mandala stencil in your arsenal. And quite often they have different motifs in them. The next 5 are, I have small ones. I'm just going to zoom in. This is Fantastical, and I absolutely love the motifs that are in this stencil, because quite often I will just do this part or this part or this part. And we have lots of different motifs, lots of usability. It has those round edges, it has swirls. It's just yummy. It works so, so well. The next one, Circle Tiles. This is 853. And I'm just going to grab, while I tend to use the small one because I've been doing the iCAD challenge and working on art journal pages, but there is the larger one, and this is the large one. But again, we have this motif, we have this. If you do this whole area, you get a very different pattern. So you have variety within one stencil. So that's Circle Tiles. This is Linked Tiles. But again, this one has different interesting motifs in it. It looks spectacular with modeling paste. It looks spectacular when I stencil on. It just adds that interesting something. Dotted rings. This one, it's a very fine stencil, but it just adds that little extra something to the page. I've done it modeling paste, I've done it stenciling, and it very quickly is one of the ones that I reach to. And so, my favorite stencils. Good, basic stash builders. If you like this video, leave me a comment below. If you want to see more of my favorite things, tell me that in the comment section below. If you have a specific thing that you wish me to tell you what my favorites are, put that in the comment section below. I do read every comment. I do answer every comment. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Bye for now.